Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 45. We're glad you're listening. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I decided to create a podcast for the Becoming Ellie community after we noticed that the numbers of women at the gym and at races were dwindling when it got into the 50 and over category.
Yes, many women over 50 know that they want to stay healthy, be fit, and have an active lifestyle, but sometimes feel like they are alone in their journey. So we wanted to create a community. We named it Becoming Ellie because Jill and I are still becoming fit and strong.
You might wonder, who is Ellie? As the legend goes, Ellie's the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match.
It's funny, when she was challenged to the wrestling match, no one expected her to do well, much less win. So we decided to name our community after her because we all want to be fit and strong as we age.
Before we go to our interview, I want to give a shout out to those of you who are finding us on Pandora. Kathy, thanks for the great feedback about finding us so easily.
And to Joyce, who found us from the link on Facebook. Welcome. Our community of listeners continues to grow, and it is exciting.
Also, thanks to those of you who have bought some of our Becoming Ellie apparel. We appreciate the support. If you're looking for your own Becoming Ellie apparel, just visit the link named Store on our website.
You can find the link to our store at becomingellie.com. That's BECOMINGELLI.com.
Your support helps to cover the expenses needed for the hosting of our podcast and website. So we appreciate it if you consider helping us so we can keep these episodes coming.
Speaking of episodes, I am really excited about our podcast guest today. Talking to her reminds me of why I want to stay fit and strong.
I think our listeners will also find her motivating too. You've known her for quite a while, right?
Yes, I have. Let's go to the podcast. When I met Denise Wakeman at a conference in Chicago about 10 years ago, she was podcasting on the Blog Squad, and I remember she was interviewing and recording at the conference, asking people's opinions about what they heard and offering her thoughts. Denise was definitely ahead of the curve, and she really impressed me. Over the years, I continued following her and was delighted when she started a side hustle.
In 2018, she combined her love of online marketing and travel to launch a new business called Globetrotting Adventure Travel. Denise Wakeman's motto is, just say yes. After a life-changing trek in the Peruvian Andes, she embraced her inner adventurer and ditched the black business suits for a knapsack and hiking boots.
Denise is proud to know a lot of 50-plus women who are rocking their fitness and inspiring her on a daily basis.
She is passionate about empowering others to experiment and let go of the little fears that are limiting growth so they can say yes to the bigger adventures and recognize new opportunities. Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, Denise Wakeman.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and talk with you today.
Yes, thank you for coming to the podcast and welcome. We know that you just returned home to California from a trip to Morocco, and your new travel business sounds very exciting. What exactly is adventure travel?
Adventure travel tends to be more off the beaten path. Maybe has some elements of not being on a tour bus, but, hiking, walking, exploring, doing things that aren't necessarily the traditional tourist model of 9 cities in 6 days, that kind of thing. So it's more like spending time somewhere, really going deep, maybe connecting with locals in a different way, more intimate way. So, it can encompass a lot of things. it could be hiking Mount Everest. It could be, swimming with the sharks, that kind of thing. So it's just more taking your experience a little bit into a more adventurous way rather than just sitting waiting for somebody to tell you what you're looking at.
Yeah. So how did you get the idea to start it?
Well, I've been traveling really basically my whole life. My parents were avid travelers and took us everywhere since the time I was probably about 6 months old.
Wow.
So, I just it's always been a part of my life. And when I was 13 and my sisters were 11 and 6, we spent 3.5 months camping in Europe in a VW camper van.
Oh, wow.
And even though at the time I didn't appreciate it, I certainly did much later. And I just kept going. When I was 19, I took time off from university and traveled around the world for 6 months, partially on my own, partially meeting up with people. I've lived in 2 other countries. It just is something that's always been part of me, but I never thought of it as a business until, I don't know, just one day it's like, what am I doing? I need to be combining, my whole life together. I rebranded my marketing company to be Adventures in Visibility, and that was in 2013. And then I don't know, like a year and a half ago, it's kind of like, I need something more, and I need to figure out how I can get on the road more, or be traveling, be exploring more. I'd visited Peru several times after my first trip there, and I really loved it. And it's just like, how can I do more of this? This gives me joy.
Yeah.
And I can still work. I'm self-employed. All I need is a Wi-Fi and my laptop. It doesn't matter. So, yeah.
Yeah. Is your business primarily meant for women, like women over 50, or is it all types of ages?
The travel business
Yes.
I haven't limited it, no, but I tend to travel more with women. More women tend to reach out to me, probably because, they're in the similar age cohort as I am, and they see what I'm doing. And that seems to be what makes people reach out, is like, oh, I see what you're doing. I see how you're traveling. I want that too.
So people are actually traveling with you.
Well, that has been the case the last 2 trips I've taken, to Morocco and to Peru earlier in the year. That's not what my initial thought would be. I was just going to be a travel agent,
Oh, right.
on the side. And then people are like, well, I want to go with you.
Oh,
I like what you do. I was like, okay, well, let's see. Sure. As long as, my trip is covered. Sure. No problem.
Oh, that's a positive.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I'm kind of going with the flow right now. It's only been a year and I haven't pushed it too hard. I'm still in a learning curve. I work under the auspices of a bigger, like a host company is what they're called. And so I have access to all of their resources and help and education. So I've been taking it slowly and just responding when people reach out.
That's great. So being fit and healthy certainly makes a difference when you're trekking around the world. Do you run to stay in shape?
I have been a runner for about 12 years, but I've also had a couple of problems with my right knee in the last couple of years, so I am not running anymore.
Okay.
But I am walking. I am hiking when I travel, and I hike around Los Angeles. There's tons of great hiking in LA. We have the largest urban park in the country, in Griffith Park. We have mountains that ring the entire LA basin. There are mountains all around. So within a 30-minute drive, I can be in a very rugged area. To me, it's the best of all worlds. I've got the ocean, I've got the mountains, I've got everything. So yeah, I do that. And I have a group of gal pals who are all over 50 and fit. And we were running, together for every week for the last 12 or 13 years. And now some of us walk and some of us still run, but we get together just about every week and do something. And it's all based around where we're having breakfast afterwards.
Oh, okay. All right. What about when you're traveling? Well, obviously you're hiking or trekking, but I assume that's what you do. Anything else?
In terms of staying fit when I'm traveling?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Mostly when I'm traveling, I'm doing a lot of walking or I'm hiking. Like the trip to Morocco was not a hiking trip. It was being driven around, but it was we were a group of 6 and we had a driver with us the whole time. But, we'd drive to our destination, we'd stay there, we'd explore, we'd walk all day. So that's really how I manage it when I travel. I don't put too much emphasis on, I've got to get my workout in. I do that before and after, and, I let that take care of itself in the course of being active with the travel.
Okay. So let me back up for a minute. Do you have a specific workout set up for when you're at home, like besides meeting with your friends, like, do you do strength work or yoga or any other like sort of cross training kinds of things?
I have done all of that in fits and starts.
Okay.
For many years. Basically now, I mean, I'll do Pilates, a little bit of Pilates in the morning. Usually I'll walk during the day because, of course, I am chair bound, being a work at home person and working on my computer all day. So I'll get out and, hustle around a few blocks to get some exercise too.
Right.
But I've never been a really working out on a, specific plan or anything.
Okay.
I was a couch potato until I was in my 40s, and that's when I realized I needed to lose weight, and I started on Weight Watchers, and then I joined a gym, and then I lost a lot of weight, and I said, oh, now I want to run, and so that's kind of all developed since like 2007 or something. That's when I sort of changed my lifestyle around just making sure that I'm more active. And now I crave it. I make sure that I get it in some way, shape, or form on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
I make it my social life, really. That's how I do it because I'm at home and I'm an introvert and I could easily never leave the house. So I make my physical activity, I make it social.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with adventure traveling, it sounds like it's very social with an active experience, hiking, biking, kayaking, sailing.
Exactly.
And it sounds like it's for people who are fit, but fit means different things to different people. How do you define fit?
I define fit that you can walk, that you can climb stairs, and if you personally feel, that you have what it takes to do whatever is required based on the criteria from wherever we are. I don't think it's my place to say you're not fit unless somebody is, morbidly obese or something. But I don't think somebody like that is going to be attracted to the kind of travel that I'm doing because I am hustling. It's all about walking. It's not about being carried around, in a car and bus all day long. That's just not how I do it. And that's why I focus on the adventure aspect of travel. I would say that I'm not the fittest person I know, but I went to the Himalayas last year and climbed and hiked in the Annapurna range in the Himalayas in Nepal. It was hard.
Right.
It was really hard.
Well, how do you prepare for, doing those large, challenging hikes?
Well, that's where my social life comes in, is I'm meeting up with my friends and saying, okay, let's hike, let's run, let's walk fast, let's do whatever we do, because we meet up and each do our own pace together because we're all at different paces at this point. We support each other. So, for example, I'm going to be going hiking in the Andes, let's say. Well, that means that we're probably going to be doing a lot more hiking, local hiking on the weekends. Basically, that's what I do. So, watch my weight. I'm an intermittent faster, so that keeps me at a good weight also. I'm not the most disciplined, but I know what I need to do to make it easier on my body. If that makes sense.
So when people are going with you, do you suggest anything to them as to what their requirements are for doing whatever the adventure is?
Well, certainly I'll let them know what the terrain will be like. I will let them know about altitude. So, for example, I took 9 women to Peru and we hiked in the Andes. We did a 5-day trek in the Andes. Now, we were with a guide. I was not the guide.
Right.
I was the escort. But they were all hikers anyway. They've all hiked Half Dome in Yosemite and all kinds of things like that. So I didn't even really need to say, hey, you better start hiking more before we go, because that was their lifestyle anyway. And that's what I think, people self-select these kinds of adventures because, if you're very clear about what it entails, a lot of people say, oh, no, that's not for me. Can I go to Machu Picchu without trekking? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. We can say, you can go on a train. That's no problem. So, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Wow. Okay. So do you have a favorite trip?
Yeah, Peru.
Peru? Okay.
Yeah. I talk about Peru a lot, but it's because when I'm there, I feel a deep internal sense of joy when I'm in the Andes. And I can't explain it other than that maybe it's the altitude. I don't know. But somebody suggested that, well, there's a heightened level of, endorphins when you're in that high altitude. And it's like, oh, well, maybe that's it. But I think it's a gorgeous country. The people are wonderful. The food's fabulous. When I'm hiking in the Andes, I just feel great. I could do that a lot, although there are other places I'd like to go to. I'm going to go to Buenos Aires and spend a month there next year. So still South America, but the other end.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see if you have the same reaction. Though I suspect when you were in Nepal, if it were just altitude, you would have felt the same way there.
Yeah, I didn't feel the same way there. I mean, it was a great trip, but I didn't have that really strong connection.
You have a good connection there. Yeah. I can hear it in your voice when you talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with your travels, what have you discovered that you wouldn't have expected?
That I'm stronger than I thought I was, that I'm more resilient, that, gosh, how do I articulate this? I've always been really independent, so I knew that anyway, but I didn't realize how much my traveling impacted how I approach business too. It was really an epiphany when, even though I had my own marketing business for, I don't know, almost 20 years, it was on a trip to Peru that I went, gosh, like I approach business the way I approach travel. I had never put that together. They had been totally separate in my life. And it just sort of became clear to me that they were really the same. I bring the same curiosity. I bring the same experimentation. I bring the same, let's just try it. If it doesn't feel mortally dangerous, then that's where the just say yes comes in. And, I kind of came to that when I was going to Peru by myself on the second trip I went alone to meet up with a guide. And then I thought, it's like, what the hell am I doing? I don't know this person, And I was just like, you know what? He doesn't want anything bad to happen to me. I don't want anything bad to happen to me. We both want to, have a good experience on this trip. So just go for it. Just say yes, unless I think it's going to kill me.
Yeah. Well, there's an amount of courage that it takes to sign up for a trip to another country or a challenging trek. What fears do women over 50 have to overcome to take that plunge?
That something bad will happen to them.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees, but there's a lot of fear of traveling alone that can certainly, I've always got a little bit of trepidation before I go on a trip. Mm-hmm. But I guess just because for so many years I've been doing it alone and with other people and nothing bad has ever happened to me, that I feel like, most people are inherently good. If you embrace that mindset, then it's easy to get over the fears that something, dangerous will happen, because it probably won't. No guarantees, but it probably won't.
Right.
And that people, well, I don't speak the language. People say, oh, do you speak Spanish? Do you speak this? Do you speak that? It's like, no. If you try, if you make an effort, and if you're friendly and you smile and you learn a few key phrases like please and thank you, that's going to take you so far. What if I don't like the food? Well, you need to try it first, right? Mm-hmm. This is a big thing about travel, is not making any assumptions about what's going to happen or what you're going to see. And if you can kind of flip that switch for yourself and just embrace the unknown, because that's what it is. It's a huge unknown. Stepping off a plane in another country where signs are in different language, people are talking in different language, but people want to help you. So it's getting over that, I think, is really a big piece of it. How am I going to get money, and how am I going to know where to eat, and those kinds of things. It's so much easier now than it was in the 70s when I went by myself when I was 19. I mean, there was no cell phone, there was no texting, there were no apps, I communicated with my parents by postcard. So, we were never in sync.
Right.
Right. Right. We were just talking about that even about college. I said, when we were in college, we had a weekly phone call that,
Exactly.
I'd call collect, or they'd call the payphone in the hall, and I'd write letters, and and it's just a different. So you're absolutely right. I mean, now you can download maps off of Google onto your phone, and you don't have to figure out how to ask anyone for directions.
Google Translate.
Right, exactly. I guess
that's right.
I use that, especially, I spent a month in Cusco in Peru a couple of years ago because I wanted to just be there longer than a week. I was living at a guest house where the guys who ran it didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish. I took a Spanish class, but I didn't speak Spanish. We were communicating through Google Translate.
Wow.
And it worked.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shifting gears just a little bit here, I wanted to talk about the disappointment of a letdown after an event. Like I think of like a race or not being able to participate in a race due to an injury. And I'm wondering, how do you deal with things like that? Like, do you have any tips on how to deal with the disappointment of something not going the way you wanted it to when you've been looking forward to a specific activity?
Oh boy, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I was doing a half marathon in outside of Yosemite a few years ago, and at the 3-mile mark, I fell flat on my face. It was a trail run. I fell flat on my face, fractured my hand, messed everything up. The sweeper truck had to come and get me. That had never happened to me before. I was really disappointed. And I let myself feel what I feel, for sure, at the time. But I think that I keep coming back to, my gal pals, is that having that support around me, having that support means I don't dive too deep into feeling sorry for myself. When I was younger, I probably did, but in the last decade or so, I kind of try to look at things like, well, there's another race coming up sometime. I might not be able to run it, but I can go and cheer my friends on. As a group, we're doing a half marathon in November, and I can't run it. I'm going to walk it. And do you know how hard that is to walk a half marathon?
Right.
It takes a long time.
Yes, it does.
I did it once after I broke my hand because we had already signed up, and I was like, screw it. I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna be swept off. I'm gonna do it under the time that I was allowed, and I got in 5 minutes before that time.
Excellent.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, I think with age, at least for me, I've kind of learned to just accept that stuff. Yeah, I can mope around and feel sorry for myself for a little while, but nobody else is feeling sorry for me.
Right.
Yeah, everyone else is saying, look at these great trips. Denise is...
Okay, that's not getting very far. Exactly.
Well, so when you've been traveling, have you had a trip where things didn't go as planned or where you weren't able to do what you had intended?
I tend to go with the flow on trips, and unless it's a really organized trip, which I don't do that many of really organized trips. This one to Morocco was more organized because I did it with a partner, and, so we were responsible for this group of people. But generally, things just go as they go, and you face them as they come. Yeah, somebody might get sick, or I might get sick, or there's a train strike that happened on this last trip to Peru, but it was just like, okay, we'll go on this trail instead of that trail because we can't take the train to get to that trail. So it doesn't do me any good doesn't change anything, let me put it that way, if I'm upset or if things don't go the way I want. Because, well, okay, how could I forget this? When I was in Nepal, there came a point where it was very clear I could not make it up to the base camp, the Annapurna base camp. I was having a really hard time with my breathing. It was a really hard hike. It was a really, really hard trek because it was all stairs, and stairs require much more cardio than just a trail.
Right.
And I was struggling, and the guide said, I just don't think you should try to finish. And I was like, wait a minute, I've been planning this for a year, and my friend was with me and she could make it, but I realized that they were right. I wasn't going to be able to keep up. I wouldn't be safe for me to just be hiking by myself in the dark work on a mountain. I mean, not that they would have let me do that, but
Right.
I was holding everybody else back, and it was going to be too much of a struggle. Now, yes, I was upset. I cried for about 5 minutes because I watched my friend leave to go do it, to go finish what we had talked about for 6 months. And I had to turn around and go back to a guest house for 2 days and wait for her. Yeah, I was beating myself up for a little while. And then I just said, well, what good is this? This is ridiculous. I'm in the Himalayas in Nepal. It's gorgeous here. It's beautiful. So I get to stay at this guest house and meet other people coming and going, and that's what I ended up doing. It turned out to be really nice. And I met some great people. So
you really made the best of it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't turn around and go home.
Right.
I'm up in the mountains and I just had to deal with it. I gave myself about an hour to be upset, and then it's like, okay, now it's time to go get something to eat.
Well, that's true. You didn't have to climb all those stairs.
Yeah.
Well, so that would explain why you didn't have that same feeling in Nepal that you did in Peru.
Yeah,
so,
it was much harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Your friend, did she?
She made it. Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But she wasn't going to not do it because I couldn't do it. And I wouldn't have wanted that either.
Oh, no, right. That would have been.
Absolutely not. That I would never have. I mean, it wouldn't even occur to me to suggest that. It was like, you go, I'm going to wait here.
Right.
You know?
Oh, right. Yes, I wasn't thinking you had suggested that, but
Mm-hmm.
I know if I'd been your friend, there would have been at least a moment of, should I stay? No, I'm going. But.
And maybe she did feel that. I don't know. She didn't express that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, food. If you don't mind talking about food, do you have a particular way of eating? I know you said you do intermittent fasting, but do you do paleo, vegan?
Nope, I'm a carnivore.
Okay.
I mean, I don't eat meat every day, but I eat what I like. I don't worry about it too much until I realize I've gained too much weight. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's when I started. Last year, I realized I was at my highest weight ever. And just like, okay, I've been enjoying food too much and not working out enough. So I started doing calorie counting, lost a few pounds, lost about 12 pounds. And then a friend of mine told me about intermittent fasting, and I started doing that, and it's been unbelievable. It works for me. It really works for me. It feels good. I do 19-hour fasts, 5-hour eating window, and I basically, eat what I want. You can't I can't eat a whole lot in a 5-hour window. So,
right.
So I've naturally been losing weight and keeping it off and feeling good. Lost 37 pounds. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel great, and I feel like my body's back, and that's been over a year. Now, I do not fast when I'm traveling or trekking because usually I'm with other people, and I want to enjoy meals with the people I'm traveling with.
Right.
When I'm trekking, I want to make sure I'm getting enough energy to be in mountains that are, 15,000 feet and that kind of thing. So I really don't worry about it then. I just eat as I wish, and I'm usually moving enough that I don't gain weight. At least that's been my experience for the last year, that I have, managed to not gain weight, even though I feel like in Morocco, all I did was eat carbs and I gained 2 pounds. So I was pretty happy with that, actually. Yeah. Then I just am back into my fasting routine within 2 days of getting back home. And
so when you do your fasting, do you eat in the evening or in the morning?
I eat in the middle of the day.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, I fast. Usually my eating window is roughly between noon and 5.
Okay.
And so then I'm fasting from 5 until noon the next day. That works the best for me because that's about the time that I start getting peckish anyway in the middle of the day. I usually eat a breakfasty type meal at that time because I'll eat breakfast any time of day, and then usually have a small snacky, protein rich salad or fruits and vegetables or something like that at the end of the day. or a smoothie, something like that, so that I have something before I close my window.
When you're traveling, do you have certain kinds of snacks that you bring with you, and when on a plane, or if you're in a car or hiking, do you have certain things that you bring with you?
Yeah, I usually bring some protein bars and nuts or trail mix with me to have if I need something that I can't get locally or it's not convenient to stop and get something. So I almost always bring some kind of trail mix, almonds, that kind of thing, and then maybe some Cliff Bars or something like that so that I have something that I can nosh on when I need to.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you probably spend a fair amount of time in airports when you're going.
Yeah.
So I could see where you might need some food.
Yeah. Well, when I'm in airports, I like to sit and have a glass of wine and watch people.
Oh, okay. That's that's a good activity.
It is. I like airports, actually. A lot of people hate going to airports, but I really like them, and I like going and just sitting at the bar and watching people and drinking a glass of wine.
Good.
So when you're traveling, it's tough sometimes to keep energy when you're going across all those different time zones, with the jet lag, and you're traveling and then you're sitting for long periods of time. Do you have any tips for keeping your energy and getting rest?
Well, I have a hard time sleeping on planes, but this time I took somebody had suggested eye covers. It's a brand that's really thick. Like, I was in total darkness when I put those on. I mean, really total darkness.
Yeah.
And that helped me sleep. This was the first time. Got them on Amazon. And they were really, really comfortable. And I found that I slept more this time on my flights. But also, I just try to drink as much water as I can, and I always get an aisle seat if I can, so that I can stretch out my legs in the aisle. Not that I'm so tall, but, like everybody, it's uncomfortable because I don't get first class seats.
Right.
I have a colleague who has a app and program. It's called Stop Jet Lag. So I try to follow his advice around when I start eating and stop eating, and trying to get myself on the next time zone before I leave. That I'm not always successful at doing that because sometimes I forget, but he's got a really good system for that. So I use his app to try and get myself adjusted too. This time coming back from Morocco was really hard because I had 3 flights. I was traveling for like 26 hours from getting up in the morning at 3:30 to getting home in LA 10 o'clock at night because of there were delays on all the flights. And It's been a really tough transition this time. I'm still feeling it. And I got home on Friday. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
I do try to be mindful about water and getting up, to walk, and getting an aisle seat so I can stretch out a little bit.
Good.
I thought of a question where are you going next? You just got back, but where are you going next?
I'm definitely going to Buenos Aires next November for a month. But in between, I am on this Friday talking with my friend who's got a tour company in Peru about putting together a food and wine tour of Peru.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's really excited about that. So we're going to talk about what that would look like and partnering on that. Everyone I tell says, like, oh, let me know. I'm like, okay. So
yeah, that sounds pretty appealing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and it's a different way of traveling than I have done before. But Peru is a culinary destination now. It's one of the top countries for food and people and chefs. The chefs are world renowned, and that's been going on for about the last 5 or 6 years. Maybe we should do this. So I'm going to be looking into that. And possibly partnering with my friend who I just got back from Morocco with, possibly doing another trip to Morocco next year too.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Yeah. And I want to go to Patagonia and hike in Patagonia.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a challenging one too.
Well, there's a hike that's like a 7-day hike called the W. It's a trail that's it's in Chile, right on the Chilean-Argentinian border. Mm-hmm. So it's supposed to be a really good hike. So I'm thinking if I can combine that with being in Buenos Aires, maybe I'll try to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to be in South America for a good chunk of next year.
Possibly. I like it down there.
Okay.
I had only been in Europe for most of my traveling life. Until 2012, I'd never been in South America. And I'd always traveled in Europe or Asia, all over the U.S., the Middle East. And then when I discovered Peru, it was like, wow, I like it here. So I want to do some more of South America.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time for the lightning round.
Oh, good. The lightning round.
Lightning round. Okay.
Lightning round. Basically, Chris and I will ask you short, brief questions, and you can answer briefly or lengthily. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Okay.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Bike or run or swim?
Run.
Eggs or oatmeal?
Eggs.
Treadmill or Stairmaster or elliptical?
Elliptical.
Kettlebell or dumbbell?
Ooh, I've never done kettlebells. So dumbbells, I guess.
Okay.
I would try kettlebells, though.
Okay. Yes, that doesn't surprise me that you would try them. Quinoa or rice?
Quinoa, all the way.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
I eat it almost every day anyway.
You do?
Yeah, I love it.
How do you fix it?
I fix it in a rice cooker.
Okay.
I usually use a vegetable broth instead of water. And I make a big batch and have it on hand. I'll eat it in salads. I'll eat it with eggs. I'll mix it up with scrambled eggs. I'll just eat it with, like, as a cold salad, like kind of like a couscous maybe. So I'll put maybe lemon and feta cheese, something like that in it, on a bed of arugula.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I can make it work with anything.
And do you ever just eat it like as a pilaf?
Yeah, absolutely. Have some grilled chicken or something with the quinoa on the side. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show, Denise. And if people want to follow you online, where should they look for you?
Globetrotting Adventure Travel.com.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the food and wine tour sounds pretty appealing to me right now.
Okay. I'll let you know.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll put links to all of these places in the show notes. So
terrific. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, that was great. Thank you so much, Denise.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I love talking about travel, so I appreciate all the questions.
Well, it's great hearing about it.
All right. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I love the idea of traveling and staying fit to enjoy doing adventure travel. I also really like the idea of traveling with a group of like-minded women. There's so many different things to do in the world. Hiking, mountain trekking, kayaking. I really would love to try it all.
Yes, Denise had some great tips about avoiding jet lag, particularly changing time zones ahead and using the eye mask to change the sleeping patterns. And I also liked hearing how she fixes quinoa. In fact, I've got some ideas about making a batch to have ahead of time during the week to add to my soup or a salad.
She's not the first one of our podcast guests to have a group of friends to run with and then enjoy breakfast together. I'm hearing over and over again the importance of community for the days you want to celebrate, for goals, and also for dealing with disappointment.
If you're looking for an online community, be sure to follow us on our Facebook page and then join our private Facebook group where we encourage and support each other. We may not be able to have breakfast together, but we can still be a community.
We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And don't forget to sign up for our email list so you don't miss any of our articles or podcasts. You can sign up at becomingellie.com.
Yes, there are over 250 free articles about healthy eating, fitness, and nutrition for women over 50.
And if you've done some exciting travel or have some ideas about adventures to share, let us know by commenting on our website or our Facebook page.
Or you can leave us a voicemail message at 330-970-6662.
We're looking forward to talking to you again on the next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
Yes, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.